All right. It says we're live. Are we live? I don't know. We're probably live. Hey everybody. Thanks for coming. You didn't come anywhere. You're at home. Thanks for picking this thing to pass time with at home. I'm Costaki Economopoulos. That's Jason Cantor. This is 50 Toasts. We have done this traditionally on Wednesday nights. This is the last Wednesday for a while. We're going to switch to Tuesdays. Next week, Roy Wood Jr. in this space, 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, December 1st. And the rest of my schedule is Mondays at 7:30 p.m. We do Quick Snaps, the podcast. We record it here in this one of these kind of spaces. We'll announce where exactly that's going to be. We're messing around with StreamYard instead of Zoom. You can see this looks better already, and we're learning how it works. And we've got comments right here on the board. And there's some cool things about this situation that we think we're going to prefer. Anyway, that's a little too inside baseball. Tuesday mornings, I, of course, do Bob and Tom, where I've been promoting heavily the brand new football comedy brand, All Pro Lines. Come join us. The thing that surprised me the most about it so far is how good the other people are, how good the fans are at tagging jokes and suggesting ideas. It's been weirdly good at that, too. And it's regular interactive fun otherwise. So come join us any of this big social media at All Pro Lines, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Go to patreon.com, type in Kostaki, and figure out how to support programming like this. We already got people making comments. Ronald Schultz, what's up, man? Robert Cranston, thank you for coming and telling us we're live. So I guess we're good. 50 Toast, let's do it. My buddy Jason Cantor, comedian, earthy, smart, drinky, fun, hilarious. It's Jason Cantor, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the only one who claps, I guess. It's Jason Cantor.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Beer.
So you've always been one of my favorite guys to hang out with in New York. Tell me about it's a weird opening. Tell me about New York right now.
I'm very fun. Well, New York right now is I don't know what's happening because so we've been through multiple phases of this. Like the first was it the first 5 weeks I guess of quarantine back from March to April. Nothing was happening at all. I drove my car in like a loop around the city in like 25 minutes. I'd go walking at night. I pretty much like was stuck in my apartment. And then at night, I would just take like strolls as soon as the sun went down. I'd throw a flask of whiskey in my coat, and then just kind of wander around. And you'd go blocks and blocks without seeing a car. You'd go down Park Avenue and not see a car either way at 6 p.m, which was really crazy. And then I left New York. I went to Ohio to visit my mom. I figured I'd be gone about a month. I just packed up a big suitcase and took off. And then I ended up staying in Ohio for 4 months this summer. Just there was like never a reason to come back. Nothing was going on.
Right.
And then in August, decided to come back to the city and check it out. And the summer was really fun towards the end of the summer because like everybody had outdoor dining going, and it was like socializing and masks and stuff outside. But then, like now that it's getting cold, it's there's 25% capacity indoor, and I've gone to a couple bars, but it's just uncomfortable to be. If there's like my ideally, I go into a bar that has 4 people in it or something, and those aren't bad. You feel safe enough, and you're away from people. Try to put a mask on when the waitress or waiter comes by. And there's no bar service at any bars here. You can't sit. You can't sit at a bar. They'll have like tables jutting out from the bar, and you could sit there. But you can't order at the bar. Someone comes around. So that's interesting.
So you can be in a bar, but you can't order at the bar.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So they're trying to make that makes sense, I guess.
And they were like I was doing some outdoor shows like in Central Park, like Stand Up New York, which is by where you used to live here. Stand Up New York set up about, I think maybe 6 or 8 different park locations during the summer. So there's a couple in Central Park, Battery Park, Prospect, McCarran Park, and they'd get audience members, and they did paid, regular paid spots, and you did 10 to 12 minutes just to strangers, and kids would walk up, and people would walk up with strollers while you're telling a filthy, awful story, and
they did paid spots in the park.
Yeah.
But the customers aren't paying, right?
Yeah, from what I understand, it's part of that. They got the PPP loans, and you have to give X amount to employees. So and then they had a ton. They went from having one show a night, paying 5 comics to having 5 comics times 8 shows, whatever, 7, 8 shows. So it was,
Oh, that's fascinating. I hadn't heard that. That's
yeah,
so interesting. It's like a little social welfare for the comics. That's nice.
yeah,
That's so interesting. Did you do any of those outdoor things?
yeah. I did a bunch, and it was good to stay fresh. And it just there's such a low bar right now for comedy. You literally bring the set list and like between like, hey guys, sorry, I haven't really done this in the last 6 months. So
Right.
number one, this is the joke. Huh? Number two,
Huh?
and people liked it.
Huh?
People were in for it. Yeah, yeah, it was cool. Uh,
That's cool.
and you get to you dust. I was like varying my sets to like dust things off and
Right.
just to remember how things go. You're going through it. And have you been doing shows at all?
Very few, man. I did a couple of Zoom things and that's it. I haven't done anything live at all. Um, I weirdly did a corporate gig last week on Zoom, which was surprisingly good.
Hmm.
Uh, it was it doesn't matter. It's a company that does product placement. So I actually did like prop comedy where a couple times I grabbed like a clearly like marked thing and like, ooh. uh,
Should have done that too on this.
yeah, they were great. It was a bunch of like youngish, like smart professionals who were at a business meeting that had a comic for half an hour, and they had kind of a cool setup. They had they were all over the country. They weren't in one place, obviously. So they sent like everyone got a box with the ingredients to make like a fancy cocktail, and then the first 5 minutes of the thing was showing them how to, and everyone made a drink together. So it was like a perfect setup for a comic. People
Yeah,
were sort of giggling and happy to be doing a work thing that was fun,
yeah,
but largely I just kind of hidden from the world and I haven't done anything. I feel like I'm doing lots of stuff here, but I'm not out there at all. I feel like I miss it. I miss all of it. I miss the crowds. I miss the laughing. I miss the working on the thing. I miss that sort of weird road feeling of like, I got to get to Wichita, and, I got to go get these cows and corral them and get them to where they need to be. Like I love it. I love the whole thing, man.
yeah. Yeah,
You and
I've done zero Zoom shows. I have no appeal. Mean, I would do it if someone paid me, but I'm not like jumping on a thing I'm not open micing on a fucking computer.
I hear you. I hear you. But it's funny. So I don't love it, but it does work better than you think it will. And that, like Chris Bowers, Bowers, right? Bowers goes, I'll never do a regular open mic ever again. It's too much trouble. You got to park and thing, go. And he goes, right here, I could do like 3 of them in one night. And I was like, run the jokes, get the thing, be done. Like I don't have to leave the house. Like it's interesting. I guess that's a positive way to see it.
Yeah. Does he have a family?
What's that?
Does he have a family? Does Bowers have a? Does he have
No,
okay.
Bowers is the least family guy in the world.
Because I was gonna say like half of the fun is the socializing, the drinking, and chatting with people and stuff. So
Of course. But it is. I get that, especially after having lived in New York and schlepped around and trudging in the snow and waiting for the train, and like if you could run the jokes from here, I totally understand the appeal of that.
yeah.
Speaking of New York, I want you to, if you're willing to, you gave me this hard sell on when you reference taking your whiskey with you on the street. Go ahead, give me the sell on this. It's cheaper for the go. You're a bartender in New York. You know how pricey it is to drink in public.
How? Yes. Oh, you want me to sell you on it? Oh, it's just. I mean, I'll show you the flask. Hold on a second. This is great. Um,
I've heard this before. This is for them, not for me.
so, yeah. So
Oh,
you go on Amazon, you get these little baggies. This is a
oh,
larger size, but most of them are about that size, and
I've never even seen that. This is a whole different sell.
it's great rather than like because the other flasks you gotta wash out. You can't tell if you're getting everything out of it. The little pewter things. But yeah, these you use it for a few weeks and then toss it out. But you can this is like a 2-person right here. Um, But yeah, throw in the coat and like drink. And like one of the rules in New York right now is if you go out, if you drink at a bar, you have to buy food, and it's supposed to be significant food, which means like not fries. You're supposed to get something, and there's if you know the bartenders at places, you don't have to. They're not going to enforce that, but every other bar they do enforce it. So it's that makes it prohibitive. You're not bar hopping anymore. Certainly, if unless you know people. So.
Right. These are hilarious. We used to make these to go to the University of Georgia games. You'd have to pour Jim Beam into a Ziploc bag and hide it in your crotch. And
Yeah, I did that with. I remember putting citrus. I went to Ohio State, and I put citrus vodka into a contact solution thing. So you had
ah.
4 ounces or whatever, and I was hoping they wouldn't make me put it in my eye.
No, the thing I was trying to get you to do is sell me on. It's cheaper to get a ticket for public drinking than
Oh
it
yeah,
is
yeah.
to like pay to drink.
Oh, it's in New York City. One of the best kept secrets, which I do a bit about, is that if you have to be 21 and you have to have your ID on you, or you go to jail because they can't give you the ticket. Which happened to a guy that I knew that used to be on the Gotham Comedy Club softball team with me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Drinking in the park, didn't have his ID. He had to spend the weekend in jail. Crazy. So, but yeah, if you're over 21, it's a $24 fine if you get caught drinking. So it's like it's a bargain. Like the way in my act, I'm like it's like you're a fucking idiot if you're not drinking in public. Like
That's right. That's 3 beers.
Yeah, exactly. I crack beers and walk to the train all the time. It's more if you can't if you go into the system. I think the ticket doubles. Like if you go into the train system, so you got to finish your beer, toss it, and then go down. I got a ticket. I had like this much Yingling left, and I took it on the train, and I was drinking, and I got popped. This was a week after. Remember the terrorist attack around Halloween, maybe 2 years ago? The guy drove onto into the bike path on the west side.
Yes,
And of course. So it was like that week. The following week, I got the ticket from the 3 undercover cops, and I was fucking pissed. I was hot. I was just like, and I was like, I'm gonna talk shit, but I'm not going to jail. Like I'll cut off. I'm gonna see where the line is, and then I'm gonna cut back. But so I was like, 3 undercover cops. You fucking kidding? Wasn't there just a terrorist attack? You're pinching me for this much Yingling? I was like, it's fucking bullshit. And then, but then so there was like a Latino cop, a black cop, and a white cop. And then the white cop was writing the ticket, but his hand was shaking when he was like, right, because I'm talking shit, and his hand's shaking. He probably wanted to punch me. And I was like, why is your hand shaking, bro? I'm like, you okay? I was like, I was like, I look at the black guy. I'm like, what is he, a fucking trainee? It's like, you train this guy? Why is he fucking shaking? And then they're like, and then I looked at the Latino guy, and I was like, you're not a Trump fan, are you? And then the black guy started laughing.
That's white privilege. That whole story, top to bottom.
Yeah, I don't know, but if you do it in a playful way and you're smiling, I think you can get away with it. Like you can't, you don't menace them. You don't make any sudden movements, try to make them flinch or anything.
I got a ticket for not walking my bike down the hill in a park one time.
Yeah,
it was a sidewalk. You're allowed to have a bike, but you're supposed to walk it down.
okay.
And I was off the bike. And I had one foot on a pedal, and I was kind of like coasting with it, but not on the bike. And so I had a little playful fun with that ticket, because I was like, come on, the rule is to dismount your bike. I dismounted the bike.
Yeah.
I clearly did. I'm definitely following the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, which is not go zooming down and hit a pedestrian.
Yeah.
But I was kind of gliding on one of the pedals. And they were like, nope, that's not dismounting enough.
How much is that ticket?
It's like $50.
Is that New York City?
Yeah. That was right there, right near in that area where they have that that silent disco that on the west side, that park right there in front of those Trump buildings that are all like sort of like 40 something ish, 50 something ish on the west side.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really nice area actually. I love that stretch. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, drinking in New York. Tell me about your home. You have one of the coolest living situations of anyone I've ever known.
Yeah, I live in a schoolhouse, and I can see a little bit of it here from, it's got like lofted ceilings and stuff. It was built in 1899. It was a school until 1995, and then it, for whatever reason, it shuttered, and it was vacant for 20 years. They bricked up the windows, and Then they sold it to a nonprofit called ArtSpace, which is based out of Minneapolis. And ArtSpace put like $50 million into it, and then they do this all over the country. They buy. There's an old schoolhouse in New Orleans that they own. They bought the old. I think it was Lansing, Michigan. Is that the capital?
That
They
sounds
bought
right.
the
Yeah.
old. They bought the old mayor's office or mayor's whatever the hell that's called, where the mayor stays. City Hall. They bought City Hall,
Rare.
converted that thing. So yeah, so this is an old schoolhouse, and yeah, there's 89 apartments, and like 50,000 people applied to live here, and you needed to be an artist to do that. So I had an interview downstairs back in 2014 where a 3-person panel interviewed me, and they talked about your art, and they're like, we're not going to like, you have to show us your art. We're not going to judge you on your art, but you have to show it to them. I'm like, well, I'm glad you're not judging me because it's real bullshit what I do. So, but I brought a DVD at the time of my Gotham Comedy Live set, and played it for them on my laptop. And then I realized I was like watching their faces watch me in the laptop, which I couldn't do. It's like, I got to go behind you guys, and I scooted behind them, and they laughed at all the right spots, and yeah, I got approved, and I'm able to live here in perpetuity. Studio apartment. It's owned by a nonprofit, so the rent's not like, they're not gouging you for rent. And
Your rent is ridiculously cheap. You couldn't live anywhere. You couldn't live anywhere in New York City for what you pay.
yeah, you couldn't live in most cities for the kind of deal that I got. And then the best part is there's three, I guess, three comedy clubs downstairs. There's three places that that you can do shows. There's one that seats like 150. There's this 100-seater, and then a 50-seater. So we've done, me and Joe List put on shows. We were doing them quarterly last year. And then the building has a beer and wine license, so we can legally sell beer and wine. So we'll do that. We'll make a few bucks. We'll get comics. One of the coolest shows I've ever done. We had Greg Fitzsimmons. So this is a show in the basement. We had Ari Shaffir, Greg Fitzsimmons, Big J Okerson, Louis C.K., and Dave Attell. So
That's a pretty good show. And you?
we're freezing up a little bit. What?
Did you do a set too?
Yep, me enlisted sets. It was great. It was killer, 100 people, and yeah, cleaned up on that thing. That was really great. And that was before Louis got in trouble. That was his first set that he ever did since he hosted SNL, and that I think it was 2018. He hosted SNL, and then did the show, and then about a month later, he got in trouble.
Wow, that's so great. And you've seen him since, right?
Yeah, I started running a show at this place that I used to bartend at called 13th Step. It's in the East Village.
I remember that place. I went down there and got a drink with you a few times.
Yeah. So I was doing a show. I started one in January. We did I think maybe 5 shows before everything got shut down. So, but it was in a small room. So now there's 2 back rooms, and we basically figured out a way to socially distance it where, you could sit with your table. It's 6 feet from the other tables. You're with your whatever family unit or home unit. Yeah, we fit I think we've got about 30 people back there. And then one of the rules is you can't have ticketed events. You can't sell tickets in New York City. So we just have to we can have reservations legally to get around that. But yeah, we just do a quick hour-and-a-half show. And yeah, Louis stopped in the first 2 weeks, which is really cool because the first week he hadn't done stand-up in a while, but he just had he had a note card with him, and he kept going back to it over and over and over again, and it was just on book basically. And then he came back the second week, and he'd run it somewhere in between, but now he was completely off book, and like ideas were gelling and coming together. And it was really cool to, watch him like work that fast and develop.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that was cool. And then Attell stopped in last week as well. Attell and Louis on the same show. So people were losing their minds for their free tickets,
Right. So cool. Were the were the jokes good the first time Louis was reading them? Did you feel like, oh, this is going to be something once he figures it out?
Yeah. I think, yeah, a couple of them. There were a couple that were like, you don't know if he's going to say them again. But
Right.
yeah, like everyone else. But then it was cool too. Like I brought up Joe was at both shows as well, List, and this year was my 20-year anniversary in comedy. November 7th was 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny that you forget things like I feel bad. Like some of the same crowd comes, and I'm like, I feel guilty if I don't have like new and different material. And then to
Right.
watch we do the same set, twice in a row. I was like, oh yeah, we're comics that we need to work on things. We need to do them. We need repetition. We need reps. And it's like a reminder of, oh yeah, we're totally cool doing the same material, week after
Right.
week after week.
You got to figure it out how to do it. The
Mhm.
bar is so high. You got to figure out how to do it exactly right for it to sing. Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
That's cool. Hey, we got a new form here. We may as well use it. If you guys have any questions, type them into the thing. We'll see what we got here already. Audio seems better. Okay, good. Funny Boat in Toledo is open. Come on back.
Ohio, yeah.
uh, Yeah, okay, cool. If you guys have questions, type them in here. We'll see if this form works in that way as well. Um,
I went to Louisville, which is a club you got me into, the Caravan. I had a date in June there, and then that got scratched. Obviously, or not obviously, but I guess because of the shutdowns, it got scratched. And then she offered me September, which in June, September it seemed a long way off. Like, we'll be
that's
through by
safe, right?
September.
Sure.
So, but then the weekend I ended up going. The gigs Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wednesday, the not guilty verdict for the Breonna Taylor cops came down, and then the city went into lockdown. 9 p.m. curfews. It was a nightmare. Like we had both the late shows Friday and Saturday got canceled. 4 people showed up to the Friday show. It was a fucking nightmare.
I have had the worst luck at that club for the same kind of stuff. I had one night I was there. It was Lamar Jackson was in a Heisman Trophy race, and the ESPN Game Day guys were in Louisville for that
Okay.
game, and it was a night game, Saturday night. I'm like, that's the big money night for the comedy club. Of course, Friday we did fine, and then Saturday it was just me and the wait staff, like, wah, wah, you know.
Yeah.
One night I was there. It was the same night as they do some crazy thing with They do like a zombie parade on one of the nights of every year. Then, of course, if you go during Derby week, that's kill yourself. And there's, you know,
I did that the first time I went through. It was, I guess, 2 weeks prior to the Derby. That's when it kicks off. But they do a fireworks show that's the largest in the nation, bigger than any Fourth of July fireworks, all outdoors. Same thing. Like 6 people came to the Friday night show because the whole goddamn city was partying.
that's right. Yeah, civilians have no idea how many strikes there are in getting crowds out. Like, oh, it's a sleet storm. Oh, it's dollar beer night across the street. Or so many things where you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
We
you always
need,
get the story from the staff. Like last week, it was really fun. I don't know what happened. Okay. Cody wants to know, what bourbon are you sipping?
it's a good question. I have no idea.
Amazon bagged bourbon.
I don't know. This was this was either a High West double rye or this was the Evan Williams bag. So I go very high or very low with my bagged bourbon.
If you're not able to tell the difference, why don't you just go low every time?
Yeah, I think this is the Evan Williams, just the Evan Williams Black, which I started infusing my own whiskey this summer. Take Evan Williams bourbon, take like a liter, and take a cup of peanuts, like rough chop them where they're not completely finely ground, and then soak them in the pour the bourbon over them, shake it up every few hours or whatever it is. But you soak it for like 24 hours, and then you strain out the peanuts and shake up the bottle, pour it over some ice, some peanut whiskey. It's fucking delicious.
Wow. Tips. Follow Jason Cantor for more recipes. I never heard of that ever. I thought you were going to say fruit. Can you do that with fruit?
You could, but I would imagine it wouldn't last as long. Keep it refrigerated, maybe.
Okay. Is that a problem for you? Your liquor lasts too long?
No, it's not usually a problem. I won't. If people live in a state, Costco, in a state that has a Costco that sells liquor, because Costco makes their own Kirkland brand, like vodka, whiskey, different things. Tequila. The tequila is great. It's like $20 a bottle for like añejo aged tequila. $12 for a bottle of vodka. It's good shit. But
that is good shit.
not every state does it. But you don't. And the best part is you don't have to be a member of Costco. You don't have to pay the membership fee because you can't charge. It's a legal loophole. You can't charge a membership to sell liquor. So
right.
yeah.
Now we got a couple comments. Oh, quick snap show. It's Aaron Hodges heckling you. Does infused feel a bit too highbrow? A word for for use with Evan Williams. Adam Bragg says gonna have to try that. I had a peanut butter porter beer over the summer. It was amazing. All right.
Nice. What's the brewery on that peanut butter
Yeah.
porter?
Yeah. Fill us in, Adam. Where do you get peanut butter porter? I've never even heard of that. We're getting a chocolate porter or some kind of thing today.
I got a chocolate porter in my fridge right now.
Yeah, nice. I've graduated a little bit in the beer universe. I'm drinking more interesting beers now that I'm a grown up, and I don't usually drink 9 of them at the same night. But
Yeah, I also do. I have a rack of Coors Lights right here too. 16-ounce cans, a case of 16-ounce cans next
it's
to me.
nice to have range. I agree with that.
Yeah, some nights, yeah, you want to drink 9 beers in a sitting or 15 or whatever. By the way, I think
Nice you do.
earlier in the call when we were testing it out, I'm trying to see if I think I might have fallen down last night. I had this show last night and I was drinking Wild Turkey, and yeah, I might have wiped out.
Oh, Adam says axe throwing bar in Wisconsin had its own brew house.
Oh, nice. I was
Right.
I was an axe thrower on the show Billions. I got a SAG waiver. I was hired as an expert axe thrower.
Is that right?
Yeah.
As an actor in a that
Yeah.
was your part. You
Just
were an expert
yeah,
axe thrower.
just background. I was like right next to the leads and just whipping axes. So it was great. It was a fun day. I got to eat. I was eating like lobster and rare tuna steaks and throwing axes. It was a blast.
You always get cast as the weirdest, dirtiest shit ever.
Yeah, usually white supremacists. I got a. I'll give you a picture you can post with I had a swastika on the back of my neck for Daredevil. I was a white. I was just a fucking white racist prisoner who got cut out of it. But I sat around and I got some pictures with the tats.
Is there acting now in New York? Are there still auditions and things? Are there productions that are underway?
Yeah, it's back now. Billions is filming, and so is Succession, which is a great show, which I was on briefly, for 1 second last year too. But yeah, those are filming. I've applied to try to get back on those things.
Is it fun to do those gigs? Is it?
Sometimes it is. Like if you get on camera, but basically, like I wanted to be more comfortable on camera. So I feel like it's like paid training. So instead of like going to school and you're paying them, you're getting paid to be there, and you're seeing the repetition of lines and things like that. It's just about being comfortable on camera. So when I go in for auditions for things where I have to deliver a line, it's just more comfortable. You've seen it all. It's not new and surprising or shocking to you.
Right. Yeah, that's right. But
Yeah.
isn't getting the gig a giant pain in the ass, and then it
No,
doesn't pay that much?
no, I mean it's like it's $150, I think 150, 180, something like that for the day. But the day could be, there's a hospital like 150 yards that way that I shot a thing for Luke Cage at. So I had to be there at 6 a.m. I literally woke up at 5:50, walked over to the hospital and played like a hospital patient. And then you're paid for like 8 hours, but if the filming wrapped in 3 hours, so you got a full day's pay. And then I'm walking home, I'm in my hospital patient shit. And I was like, I'm not going to put my pants back on to like walk home to take them off to go to sleep. So I was like I just like, well, fuck, I'm just going to walk home. So I'm walking out, I'm like carrying my clothes, dressed like a mental patient. And then I get stopped by 2 cops. They're like, whoa, 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 you can't, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a actor with the thing. I'm like, oh, okay. And then like there was no checking of anything. They were just like, okay, go. So if you ever get hospitalized against your will, you're an actor now.
That's a good tip. Yeah. I guess they're just checking to see if you have your facilities at all. That's enough for New York cops. Like, right,
Yeah. They don't want to get litigious with them. But yeah, it's cool. Like if you take advantage of your downtime, if you bring a laptop, I guess if you have to trust, where you're at, if you're like leaving your laptop, but even with the phone, like, all my notes are connected to the laptop and in the cloud. So, if you take advantage of it and you use it for like, all right, well, I'm getting paid. So now I'm on a writing session for an hour. So, and then you film and then you have more, it's a ton of downtime. So if you take advantage of your downtime, it's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Hey, I saw in your bio that you did the Artie Lang show. I met Artie and like him very much, but I don't know him very well. What's he like? Do you know him a little bit?
Yeah, I've hung out with him a couple times. He like at Nick DiPaolo's back in the day. He wouldn't even take it. This was before he just got out of rehab. He wouldn't even take an aspirin. He was so against that. But yeah, he's just super funny and nice guy. He was a guy, like I grew up listening to Stern. So like the first time I did, I think I was on a show. I think I was on there 3 times, and it was just the coolest. It was the most comfortable show busy thing that I ever did because I felt like I knew him already. You know Artie from the show, and he treats you like your friends, and it was cool and easy, and it was about you weren't trying to force the funny. You'd find the funny. Just you'd find it or he'd find it. So it was cool.
Yeah, I'm not a big Stern fan, but I always liked Stern. I always liked Artie, and to hang with him a little bit one night, I was like, "Oh, he's exactly what I thought he was going to be."
Yeah.
He's not even a little bit of a character. He's exactly, you know, that is a nice compliment actually for a performer that you feel like you know them, and when you meet them, they're exactly the same.
hmm
Yeah, I agree. That's cool.
The Stern Show was so like I don't know that we'd have podcasts without the Stern Show because like that was like laid the groundwork for all these podcasts where you do feel like these people they're just they're not being morning zoo crazy or something.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So what are we gonna do? Are we gonna be okay again? Is comedy gonna return to its full strength? And what's your current guess? June? We get some.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess yeah. I guess midsummer.
We all get a bunch of shots in the spring.
If they can get them out, yeah, that's what I've got a friend that works for the CDC that was they're ramping up. They're trying to like procure. They need the needles and the syringes, or the housing. They need that stuff right now. They got to get that. But yeah, that's what they're saying. Like second quarter. It seems like it. That comedy clubs will come back 50%, but I don't know if they can make any money. I think a lot of them are going to close in the interim. So
I don't know how they survived. I mean, they were hand to mouth when everything was great, right? Some of these clubs, some of the
well.
mom and pop
They
shops. I
they
don't know
want you to think they're hand to mouth so they don't have to fucking pay you more.
how.
I mean, some of them, yeah, some of them certainly are, but I don't know. Like comedy clubs got to change their business model too of like morning radio. Now that everyone has their own podcasts and their music and their Bluetooth, and I don't know how you do that, and they don't either.
Right. Right. It's funny because comics always complain like, "Oh, I don't even know who's headline some YouTube star." Like that is them changing the model. That's them figuring out a way to sell tickets to a guy who's maybe not traditionally a stand-up comic. It's
Yeah.
an interesting new world in stand-up, even if you know.
Well, this is our opportunity to get out of stand up because then we can always go like we can quit, we can get a regular job, and then people are like, oh, what happened with comedy? We're like, pandemic 2020.
That was it.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
fucking
it.
going great. I was gonna make it. And then
Now I'm a full-time Nazi. Tough draw.
you probably get more fans on the Nazi side than you do on the fucking comedy side. Easier sell.
You probably would. All right. What are some of your favorite comedy venues? Like if you could set up a month of like, your dream gigs, what would that look like?
Past or present? Like, is this like the who would you like to have dinner with, alive or dead?
If there's not a pandemic and sure, yeah.
Which I wanted to rework. Do you remember this old joke book joke? I was going to rework it for 2020. Like, who would anyone, if you could have dinner with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be? Donald Trump, dead. I think that was told to me in the 90s with, who'd you have sex with, alive or dead? And it was Anna Nicole Smith, dead.
Nice.
But yeah, so any like comedy clubs, past and present, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The Atlanta Punchline was the original one, and that old Carpet Barn or whatever the hell it was the best. Like that was awesome. The Orlando Improv, the original location was downtown in the old.
I never did that one.
It was in an old vaudevillian place, Rosie O'Grady's, or so. It was like they did vaudevillian shows there, in the 20s or 30s, whatever it was. But yeah, the stage So or the green room had a door that opened up and then visible to the crowd. So it was 2 levels. It was a square. They were packed in. They were right on top of you. You'd open up a door and then walk down these stairs onto the stage, and then on. So you had this like long walk. So if I was just hosting in these days, but you get a celebrity and they slow play the walk down and wave, and so you get that like adulation, and then but like the crowds were so hot. Even as a host, you could get like it was brand new. Everyone was excited about it. The stage would shake when you were doing real well, and it was just so cool. Like I get the chills thinking about it. Like just that stage shaking and just crushing with this cool venue.
Wow, that's great to hear. Yeah,
Yeah,
I never saw that one. The Atlanta Punchline's like 25 minutes from where I am right now. That was my old home club. I love that place.
the old one or the current one, the one in Buckhead or whatever.
Yeah, they're both about the same distance. But yes, the new one is fine, but the old one was like one of the best comedy environments in the history of comedy. And everybody played there. You could just feel it in the walls of that place. I mean, it was every Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams. And I personally worked there with Brian Regan and Larry Miller and Anthony Clark and
Yeah,
Dave. That's where I met Dave Attell and hung with him the first time, and Greg Giraldo, and just
yeah,
on and on and on. Every week was just like
yeah.
gangbusters.
I was there with DePaulo, and I worked with Jim Gaffigan there. And actually, as a host, I gave Gaffigan was working. He was. It was cool to work with him too. He had a one of these. Actually, is it right here? That shit. I was going to use a prop too. I don't know where it's at. He had a clipboard, but he was going through it every night. He would sit in the green room and go through the new jokes and things he was working on. And he had one. He was trying to get a tag for a joke, and every single show he had a different one. Back in those days, I think it was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows. So
Right.
we doing like 8 for the week, and he had a different tagline every time, and it just wasn't ever right there. And I had one for him like on Thursday, but I didn't want to say it. I'm like, eh. And then the last night, he told me, he goes, he told me I was a good writer and he liked my writing. So like on the last night, like, listen, I'd never do this. I feel awful even saying it, but like you did compliment me on my writing, and I noticed you've been working on this thing. I was like, I had a line. He's like, oh, what is it? And I gave him the line, and he goes, oh, okay, yeah. He's like, I'll try it, see what happens. And then a few months later, I'm sitting at my mom's place back in Ohio, just like sitting on the ground, whatever, watching on TV, and then Gaffigan comes on Conan. And then I was like, oh, cool. And then he starts doing the bit that I gave him the line for. And I was like, oh, this is okay. And he used my line on Conan. So
That's great.
it was pretty cool. And
I love
then
that.
in perfect poetic justice or whatever, the album came out. His I don't remember which album it was on, but I was in Dayton working at Wiley's, and there was a little record store down the street, and they had it was one of their featured albums where you could put the headphones on and listen to it. So the bit's on there, so I skipped to it, and he'd gotten rid of by that point he'd gotten rid of my tag, and he had one that was like way better than so I was glad. I was glad mine was a placeholder for it was a placeholder
That's
for
right.
a couple
That's
weeks,
right.
a couple months, whatever.
That's funny. I had one of those moments with Larry Miller when I worked with him. First of all, I have two Larry Miller things from that week. One was because I always thought of him as sort of the gold standard of writer comic, and I was shocked to hear that he didn't enjoy the writing. Like it was work to him that he had to do, but he didn't like it.
Hmm.
And I kind of scrambled my brain as an early comic. I was like, oh, but it was a good lesson that you have to, you got to hang in there and do the work, even if it's not pleasurable all the time. But I had a similar experience of like very hesitantly, boyishly going, "Hey, I have a tag idea," you know,
Yeah.
and I was an MC at the time, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I love tags. I love anything, anytime." I pitched him the thing, and he takes a long pause. He doesn't speak, and he looks up at the ceiling. And he comes back down and he goes, I think that'll work. And I was like, okay. And sure enough, he did it the next few nights. It worked great. It wasn't any genius thing, but it was just fit nicely. It was like
Yeah.
7 words right here.
Yeah.
That's nice. I actually put that on my resume for a while when I was sending out bio stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
wrote a tag for Larry Miller's 5 stages of drinking. And I would get comments. Like I would call the club and the guy would go, did you really, we would talk it through and I would tell him the thing, and the 1 out of 17 times that someone answered the phone.
Yeah.
The only other one I ever did like that that was like that really stuck with me was I wrote a joke. Well, I gave a joke that kind of worked for me but didn't fit anywhere to Jake Johansson. He
Yeah,
was I had a joke about being on the other side of the earth. You know, this thing about Australians always say people always say Australians travel, and Australians always like, it's not that far, like, yeah, it's far. Australia's on the other side of the earth. If it were any further away, it would be closer.
yeah,
And it's a great joke, but it was just a one liner that didn't work at all for me. And
yeah,
he was doing this great chunk about meeting his wife, but she was in New Zealand. Like, no wonder it took me so long to find her. She was on the other side of the fucking earth.
yeah. I feel like I've seen him do that bit.
He did it on a special, like,
Okay.
so that I kind of have that in my little feather in my cap too. Like one of my heroes did one of my jokes on a special. Like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I get to write on. I got to write for Larry the Cable Guy's Netflix special a couple years ago. He's a guy that I worked with at Charlie Goodnight's. That's another club I'd add to the list.
Oh yeah,
Like right before Larry blew up, I worked with him there. I just featured and had a blast. That was another club that did you worked that club with that high stage and the black and white background. It was just that was I loved that club and that place.
yeah,
And it was an old ice cream factory. All these places that were like something else that were repurposed for comedy. Wiley's was a fun one. You know, they were like that old ice cream factory that was Charlie Goodnight's. Like it was just all cement and brick. So like the laughs would just bounce around and just feed the crowd.
right.
It would feed themselves. They'd be laughing because of the noise and
That club was magic. As an Atlanta comic, those are the two clubs where you tried to get your tape. The Atlanta
oh
Punchline and then Charlie Goodnight's. And I, like every 5 or 6 months, I would get a tape from one of those two places. And,
yeah.
send it out to 45 clubs, and
I wonder if I
that
can,
would turn into 3 gigs.
yeah. I wonder if I can get into Good Nights now that I assume they're open. You know,
They are open. I think they're under they're the
the
same.
Helium umbrella. Helium.
Yeah, that's right. They're the Helium people. It's the only one they didn't brand. They kept the brand that was already there. And that place was smart too, business wise, because it was a comedy club, and then below it was a
The old bar.
bar.
The old bar.
Yeah, and there was a restaurant in there too. So there
Champagne,
were like different
champagne,
tiers, and you could go
champagne
into that
Charlie's.
building and just spend the whole night in there.
Yeah, Champagne Charlie's was like the upscale. You get a steak upstairs. Old bar, which I did. This whole show's about my credits, in case you didn't know.
No, that's
Uh,
just fun with that.
they didn't. I worked with Attell there for his Insomniac, and so they
Oh
filmed
yeah.
it. So this was it was actually really funny, and it was because I was only maybe 3 years in, but maybe 4 years in. But so but the club under the I think it was that the Shady owner, but anyway the club at that point was like they're like Dave Attell, they did advertising like $30 Dave Attell. What they didn't tell the crowd was that Attell comes, the host goes up, which is Lumpy Wilkes at the time.
Lumpy.
Yeah, so Lumpy, then he brings Attell up. Attell does 10 minutes, and then it's thank you, good night, and then it's here's your headliner, Jason Cantor, and people are just like streaming out the doors. Like a third of the crowd, gets up to leave. Like what the?
They didn't explain this to them.
No, because they wouldn't get $30 a ticket to see Dave do 10. So they're
Oh,
furious. So they're going for the doors, and I was just like, and the people are talking, and I just took the mic. I was like, if you guys are, just here to say Dave, just, and you want to go, just get the fuck out. And like the club is your money, they don't give a fuck. And then everyone that's like, and then people that are left like are clapping, and like then they assume that I'm like Attell's buddy or something, and I fucking crushed after that. And then I went down, which Dave can be. Dave, I always tell people, is like an old dog. Like if you pet an old dog, you don't know if it's gonna bite you or be real sweet. So I was like, Dave's like, how were they? And I was like, you can open up for me anytime. And he was just pissed at me. But then the funny thing too was there was this shady the GM of the club at the time was this like he used to work at a strip club. Can't remember his name right now, but he went to the strip, like the best strip club in town, and he got like all the hot strippers to like come out. So because they filmed the first segment, it was Dave's March in the South for Insomniac. So he got all the hot strippers to come out to make the old bar seem like all the hot fucking tits out chicks hang out at the old bar. So the old bar was never like that. It was like an old
right.
bar. So yeah, they packed it with that, and then the bartender came around. I don't know if you remember that bar. It was like dirty on the sides and it was clean down the middle. And I found out that night why they dumped the 151 under the bar and set the bar on fire. And that was like the opening of the show. So like I'm behind to tell like with a Miller Lite and cheering, as they set the bar on fire.
Nice little slice of comedy history, Jason Cantor.
Yeah.
What other clubs would be on your list?
The old Columbus Funny Bone I liked a lot.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, and
good
then
ball.
have you been in the new one? Well, the old one at the Easton Town Center. Basically they tore down the old one and built one right next door to it, like 15 years after the original. But the old one had a low ceiling and it was just very crowd friendly. Now it's just cavernous, and if you're in the back seat, you're 80 yards from the stage. Like it's silly. You're like it's a different experience than being right there. And there's the upper deck, and it's very disconnected, and you lose laughs. Going up 30 feet, 40 feet into the ceiling. So.
Right, right. It's true.
Um, yeah.
I didn't even think of it when you said it, but I like this idea of alive or dead. Like thinking back to some of the best rooms I ever did. That the Funny Bone in Boise that's long gone. That was electric. That club. That
Mm.
something about that space and those people and the way the club was run and the sound in there. That was the go get a tape place in the country for a while. Did you ever do that one?
No, I was scheduled to in the downturn. What was they closed after the economy tanked. It was at '08 they closed, I think, because I had 2 weeks scheduled back to back with Reno. I was supposed to be gone for 3 weeks, and
Oh,
then
right. They would book the middles for 2 weeks so you could kind of,
yeah, yeah, I was supposed to be in Boise
survive and
and
still
Reno.
book a
And,
flight. Yeah, right.
yeah. Shreveport Funny Bone was great. You ever do that club?
Oh, I never did that one. I heard about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was in a great casino. They had it was a brand new casino, Hollywood Casino, and they had big 2-person bathtub. I remember I should have died that night. I like got drunk and got high and fucking took a nap in the bathtub.
I thought you were going to say like it was such a good night. You should have ended your life there. No, no,
That,
I
that
almost killed myself by accident. Very different.
Well, that was fun too, and I remember the bars were open. They might have been open because it was Louisiana. It was either 6 a.m. or all night, but I remember being drunk on a park bench at like 6:30 in the morning, like on the way back to the thing from a bar. And I remember texting one of my friends from college saying like, hey dude, yeah, comedy's not, it's not really working out. Like I decided to go straight. Like I'm up. I have a job interview and this and that. He's like, oh really? And I was like, no, I'm hammered. I'm on a fucking park bench. I'm hammered in Louisiana right now. Fuck that.
That's great. I would put on the list Denver Comedy Works. Oh, that's
I've
that's
been
got
there,
all
there.
the ingredients. Oh my goodness. Right downtown Denver, great smart crowds,
Yeah,
electric situation sound, booked by a woman who loves comedy. Um, what about Go Bananas in Cincinnati? That was always a good one.
yeah. I recorded my only album there, Go Bananas.
Yeah.
They're redoing it right now. They've been remodeling for the last 6 months or something, and I saw some pictures online that look really good. But yeah, that's another great. That's a really really great, smart crowds. A lot of good comics come out of Cincinnati.
Again, it's booked by people who love comedy, and treat it like a craft and an art instead of,
Mhm.
we didn't get a license for a titty bar.
Mhm.
It makes a big difference in how something is built from the beginning.
I did mushrooms with Sean Rouse at the Go Bananas Comedy Club
That's
after a show,
that's memorable.
and
That's
half the
nice.
staff.
That's
Yeah,
wholesome. Yeah, the staff there's fun.
yeah. Which was the only time I've ever done mushrooms in my life up until this Corona break. When I was back in after the Louisville gig, I brought some mushrooms, and me and my mom did mushrooms.
Really?
Oh yeah,
In Ohio?
yeah.
What's the situation? You and mom, what are you doing?
Just ate some mushrooms, had some, grilled some steaks, had some mushrooms, and basically we just sat in the living room. We watched the couch breathe for a while, and really just taking deep breaths and changing. And then we watched the dog's nose, grow and then shrink, and his face kept changing and staring at us. So
Now, are you both seeing the same thing? Are you commiserating and inspiring each other to see the same thing?
I guess so, because yeah, that's what because we ate whatever we started with a small dose, and then we're like, fuck it, just let's split the bag, go all in. And then not really feeling anything, and I got up and went to the bathroom, and I came back, and I was staring at the couch. I was like, what's going on? She's like, the couch is breathing. And then I looked, and I saw the same thing. So I guess
Right.
it was part of I assume. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's great.
So I'd love to do that again.
Got a couple more comments here. Let's see. That hey guys, remember along with turkey, save some COVID for grandma tomorrow. That's nice. This is a public service announcement. That's nice.
Get
Uh,
more than that this year.
remember Phi Delta Kappa in Winchester, Indiana? Yes, I do. That's a great gig. Oh my goodness, that's a ridiculously fun gig. It's a
What?
grown up fraternity.
Okay.
It's they have some social things. They do some things that are good for the community, but it's basically a bunch of grown-ups that have a house and have events and parties and things and a bar, and they
My
do
dad,
comedy shows there once in a while. It's great.
my dad had this idea 40 years ago about he wanted to have like an adult fraternity for like divorcees where you have a someone cooks, someone cleans, you pay for all that, and then you have your individual rooms and you party. That sounds great. Where is this? They still do this?
I don't know. It's a
I
good
want in
question. I'm going to say probably yes. It seemed like the kind of thing that would still be
in,
continuing. Yeah.
in Indiana.
Yeah. Indiana. Yeah.
What's Phi Delta? What Kappa?
Phi Delta Kappa. Remind me. I'll
Yeah, I want to do
oh,
it.
this guy Haywood says he was there. Also Eli Manning rules. All right. I don't know if everyone would agree with that, but he had a good run. He had a good run. Well, it's good to talk to you, buddy. Tell them about the show. You think you're going to do these shows again at the 13th step?
Yeah, I just got a text from the guys right now because I said, "Hey, are we gonna do it again?" He said, "Great, fuck it, let's go, let's do it, dude." So yeah,
Okay,
um,
cool.
yeah.
It's
So yeah, if you're in there,
Tuesdays.
what's that?
It's Tuesdays.
It is. It's yeah. We've been doing them Tuesdays, and unless the city of New York pulls the plug on, like I feel like it's coming sooner than later. That there's just going to be nothing. But
Right.
yeah, it's right now. Yeah, Tuesday. There's a curfew at 10, so we're doing the shows at 7:30 p.m. But yeah, we're gonna try one on. I think it's December 1st, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
December
right.
1st will be
Week
the next
week from
show.
yesterday.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested, 13th step comedy at gmail.com, 131313 th step comedy, 13th step. Let's see if this works. Eh,
Oh yeah, there you go.
13th
That
step
works.
comedy. Screenshot this shit. But yeah, yeah, Tell couldn't do this week, and supposedly Louis coming back at some point. But yeah, we get great comics. Joe List, we had Sean Patton this week. We had
Those are all great comics.
the comics here. Yeah, Sam Monroe was going to come by, was unable. Nick Griffin, Sarah Talamash, Matthew Broussard, Joe Mackey, Mark Normand.
Oh my goodness, that is a who's who of great comics in New York. That's great, man.
Yeah, so
Joe Mackey. Oh, he's great. Mark Nomer too. He really grew into a. Yeah, he's a star, man. He's done very well for himself. Good for Mark.
yeah.
And follow Jason Cantor on Instagram. You're one of my favorite follows. Your stuff is quirky and weird, and you're in a cemetery and you're drinking in a bar, and you're you're very entertaining on Instagram.
Yeah, I like it because it's a different medium. Like you can do jokes that you're not going to be able to do on stage unless you're, Eugene Merman or what's the other guy with the Dimitri Martin? Like prop company.
That's right. That's right. A
Yeah.
little prop comedy.
Cool.
The other plugs are, of course, All Pro Lines on all forms of social media at All Pro Lines. Come join us. Football, comedy, fun, interactive. Come write some jokes with me. It's great fun. Next week in this space, Tuesday night, December 1st. If you're not in New York City at one of Jason's shows, come here and join us in this space. And I'll be talking to Roy Wood Jr., also a guy who's done very well for himself.
Yeah, I asked him to be on one of the shows. He's not doing indoor right now because he's got a kid and stuff. So,
Right. He's in New York, though, right?
yep. Yeah, great
Okay.
guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's from Alabama. He
Yeah,
was a he was a neighboring Southern boy about the same time I was a Southern new comic, and we were kind of knocking around. I would occasionally see him here and there. It's cool to
Stardome,
grown
right?
up.
Where he started, Birmingham.
Yeah, it's Birmingham Stardom. That's right.
Yeah, he's thrown out the opening pitch at the Cubs games multiple times now. Talk to him about that. He's got a Chicago Cubs pinstripe robe that he wears, and he goes and throws out the first pitch.
He's a character, man. I'm glad he's done well. It's good. It's good to see.
He's a real guy that really deserved it. Worked hard for years and years. He's great.
That's right. Patreon.com, type in Costaki and figure out how to join the team. We're doing lots of insider stuff and developing that as we go. It's a foundation. We're just building it now. I'm Bob and Tom every Tuesday, and every night at 7:30 we tape quick snaps right here in a space like this. If not this one, we're still playing around with the media. We're liking this StreamYard, and Facebook has been weird, so we might be in a different place. We'll let you know about that. But you can always get quick snaps as a podcast for free anywhere you get your podcasts. All right, that's enough rah rah. Jason Cantor, it's great to see you, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Great to see you, buddy.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for you guys who hung around all the way through here. John Riggs and Haywood and uh, you know, Mikkel, Robert, and all these guys. I really appreciate the input, and we'll maybe get more interactive with this thing going forward.
Yeah, I like
All
the
right,
question.
all right. Take it easy, y'all. We'll see you.